Chara. Good afternoon, everyone, our esteemed guests, PMAppers, and friends. Allow me to share with you my thoughts together with the 2019 board as far as how we want to go this year with this very simple, basic presentation of some ideas. I wanted to start off by saying that in 2017, past President Mon Sigismundo, who is known as Mr. Disruption himself, disrupted many things during his term. He disrupted the annual conference, he disrupted the GMM, he even disrupted the recent elections, isn't it? Okay, and he disrupted me. But one of the greatest things that happened during past President Mon's term was we started the PMAP logo change. That was when it all began. Now, when we take a look at 2018, the key word that IPP, Michelle Garcia, presented was the word focus. And it was in this year that we had a lot of things that were completed as a result of what we started in 2017 because of the focus and the order and the efficiency President Michelle has set. When you come to think about these two words, disruption and focus, the words that come to mind which resemble this is innovation and efficiency. Another pair of words that come to mind is order and chaos. But the kind of chaos that disruption brings is the kind of destruction that excites and that energizes. It is a positive energy that we want to see as a result of what we disrupt. The thing is, some people say that this sometimes is an either-or proposition. We either go for innovation at the expense of efficiency, or we go for efficiency at the expense of innovation. But I'd like to pick up one thing I learned from an old book by Jim Collins, which he wrote in 1994, Built to Last. And it was very well explained in this book about this concept about the tyranny of the or and the genius of the end. He says that the higher order intelligence that we need to navigate today's environment requires the ability to unite opposites, the ability to unite extremes. And this is where he mentions the genius of the end. It's no longer going to be an either-or proposition, it's going to be an end. And end does not mean to say just balancing, it means integration. We want to explore the best of the two sides of things. When we reflect on these thoughts, and take it down to our profession, and what's our profession? We did a lot of FGDs during 2017. One of the questions I asked our FGD participants, when you think of PMAP, what is the first word you think of? And the word that came out is HR. Okay, HR. Now, let me reflect. I was just talking to Raju, my seatmate earlier, about the visit of Peter Senge, very recently. And it was in one of those moments that we invited him in a PMAP occasion where Peter Senge mentions that he's not comfortable with the word resources. As a matter of fact, he mentioned this could be a very demeaning word because he reminded us what it meant. He said, don't you know that resource means something that is on standby for use? And we cannot possibly refer that when it comes to people. That kind of observation really made me think hard about HR. And I said, is there another word we can use to replace resource with another word so that it becomes more acceptable? So that made me reflect and think. And I came up with a few suggestions. And I'd like to share. The first one is, What if we just called it Vice President for Human Requirements? It doesn't seem exciting though, no? Vice President for Human Requirements is unexciting, too straightforward, okay? So I thought, how about, I read recently in a report about job exodus in the UK, 2019, and it was alarming to discover that one half of the UK workforce wants to get out of their jobs. Wants to get out of their jobs. They were complaining about the environment being toxic, being not fit for humans. So probably I thought another possible R word would be something like this. Vice President for Human Remains. Okay? Okay? It doesn't sound good as well. So I thought as we take a look, a lot of our discussions in the last years was about AI and robotics. Mon Sigismundo remembers that very well. We had a lot of these talks, discussion, the scary and exciting possibilities that technology will bring. The possibility of machines taking over a lot of what humans have been doing. Probably we should call our profession as Vice President for Humans and Robots moving forward in the future as we see ourselves working with more intelligent machines. But sometimes we forget, when we got so enamored with this AI and robotics thing, we forget that there's a lot of potentials for people too. It's not just about machine potential that we should get excited about. We should get more excited because of our profession about human potentials. And talking about human potentials and how to unleash these potentials, then probably we can call ourselves Vice Presidents for Humans Rising or Humans Racing or Raised. Or in short, we can just simply call ourselves Vice President for the human race in a globalized economy. Now, HR matters is the short term for how we see 2019. And it's a great continuation from 2017, 2018, and today, because 2017, Mon disrupted things. President Michelle focused on a lot of things to see it through completion. And then I say in 2019, the bottom line of all of that is we want to matter. We want to deliver HR that truly matters to our organizations. So given that, HR matters probably could be a phrase that is desired by the young HR professionals. It is probably something that is experienced by seniors like us. And if we are PMAP leaders, we want to communicate it to the rest of the world. But HR indeed does matter. So talking about HR, and in 3 slides, I want to tell you the history of HR. In three slides. Once upon a time, HR was like this. What does the big H represent and what does the small r represent? It simply means if H is about people and R is about resources, which pertains to the business, once upon a time, we HR practitioners were so enamored by a lot of our HR technologies and HR techniques, we didn't mind understanding the business. As a matter of fact, I remember one account when I was in a Hong Kong conference a few years back. And there was, in this conference, several CEOs were on stage, and I raised a question. We were talking about succession management. And I asked a very simple question. Is it ever possible in your organizations that the HR becomes the next CEO? And I immediately got a response. And the response was, it cannot be. And I said, why? Because the HR does not know the business. It was a response that remained in my memory for many, many years. And probably this is because we were coming from here. We were so enamored with people things, and we never minded what happened to the business side. So in response to this, I remembered a period when we started reversing this. And all we ever talked about was business partnering or business partnership. We want to be the business partner of the CEO. But in the process of doing that, the H became a little less. Again, going back to the Senge experience, one of the questions we asked him when we invited him here in PMAP was, Mr. Senge, what do you see is the greatest threat moving forward? And he answered that in a very profound way. He said, the greatest threat I see is the diminishing appreciation of humanness. The decreasing appreciation of humanness. Isn't that what's happening? That's why in some HR conferences abroad, we see topics like, can we bring the human back in HR? Can we please bring back the human in HR? In our desire to be a true business partner, which is good by itself, let us not forget the human side. Because after all, that's what we're here for in the first place. So, I propose that we take a look at HR on even level. I'd like to make a distinction between good HR and great HR today. Good HR work is when you become a good business partner. You're very strong in the R. But you become a great HR if you're able to advance the business interests, but at the same time, advancing the well-being of people. That is the power and the genius of the end. This is not an either-or. I think we need to see clearly the connection between the people and the business side. So as we reflect and as we do all our activities for this year, this is the whole statement that we see around us. We want to deliver HR that matters, which means great HR work today and tomorrow. Let's talk about today. What do we find today? And this is about us. And any professional organization will be concerned about its own professional growth, isn't it? So my formula for our continue to advance in our profession is a simple triangle like this. It starts with HR fundamentals. This is a forever thing. We need to be continuously updated, whether it's in performance management, in industrial relations. This is our main staple. There are so many developments coming. We need to be constantly updated. This is a never-ending challenge for us. We need to be just on top of this game. But if you want to be truly a business partner, I think we need to see the line going to business literacy. We heard this from the interviews of CEOs a little earlier, isn't it? The need for business acumen, the need for business literacy. I think we need to step up our business literacy or business understanding level. Because it is only in trying to apply what we know in HR to solve business issues and challenges can we truly claim ourselves to be business partners. But I think there's a lot to be done in the business literacy side. Understanding the strategy, what is it I need to understand about finance to be able to really make my HR solutions work for this organization, and so on and so forth. So given this year, we're going to take a look at that. Probably we'll have research, we'll have some training, we'll have some consultation, we'll have roundtable discussions, but we need to take a deep dive into what does it take for an HR to be a true business partner in terms of the level of business literacy that is needed. That is the R side. This is the R of HR. This is the resource side. Let's take a look at the human side, the human side. The human side is, how can I use my HR fundamentals to be able to promote the well-being of employees or people that I find myself in the organization? This is the human side. And well-being, you might ask, is there a difference between words we've used all these years, welfare, wellness, well-being? Welfare is a very reactive term because it prevents, it's more of a reaction to avoid human suffering. When we went into the proactive stage, wellness, we used wellness, but although it took a look at the whole, it focused on the physical things. But well-being, I think the key word in well-being is the word being. the process of becoming and continuous being. I think in the process of advancing business interests, we need to advance the total well-being of our employees, because that is the only sustainable strategy. In the end, that is what can make businesses be sustainable. So again, we apply the power and the genius of the end. I want to advance, become a good business partner by promoting at the same time the well-being of people. That is what great HR work means to us now. Let's talk about tomorrow. Let's talk about tomorrow. Tomorrow, there's one aspect to tomorrow that I think we need to give our attention to: the future supply of HR professionals. I've had a personal experience when I got involved in some schools that told me that there were some HR courses run by schools that are suffering from dwindling enrollees. Okay? As a matter of fact, it has gotten so low in some cases, they closed the HR courses already. Okay? That is worrisome from a quantity perspective. But the other side of tomorrow is the quality side, the quality of HR education. So I was thinking, if there is something we can do to improve that quality of HR education, if we can just have a dialogue and have a training between the teachers of HR and the practitioners of today, then probably we can influence how students of HR today are taught, with the hope that probably when they practice in the future, they can become better than us. I think that is our responsibility as a professional organization. We have started something last year during the time of President Michelle. We called it the Teach Program, where we gathered a few HR teachers and we run a several days program, updating them on HR, making them see what are the current practices so that when they teach their children, the students, they will be able to be benefited from that. Can you imagine if we just reach 100 HR teachers today, and if each of these HR teacher has 20 students, that is about 2,000 students. 2,000 students, just this year alone, we could have made them a better HR at some future time that can make or deliver great HR work. What is the impact of that to our organizations and to the country as a whole? That is the kind of thing that we need to get ourselves engaged in. It's not just today, but it's about tomorrow. But moving forward to tomorrow, I think the greatest challenge that we need to do, because PMUP is PMUP, and we have the manpower to do it, we can say we can also do great HR work for the country. That's why right now, and part of our 5-year plan, is what we call the creation of a national HR agenda. We'd like to initiate a national conversation that can probably craft at some future time a winning national HR agenda, capitalizing on the best of the Filipino to bring the best for the country. I think our collective efforts and our collective minds might be able to just add a lot of value to whatever we have right now as far as a national HR agenda. We've started that process of building alliances, having these conversations, and we want to, at the end of the year, have something a little bit more concrete so that we can move towards the crafting of a national HR agenda that's adopted by the Philippine government. Okay, I'd like to, at this point in time, I'm not going to talk about details of this program, but this is some sort of the umbrella anchor. I'd like to enjoin the members to play an active role this year. I see a lot of my batchmates here who have resurrected themselves from a lot of inactive years, and I'm very glad to see them, really. We need each one to be able to bring this all to fruition. So, with that, I'd like to end by saying that I'd like to go back to the logo. One of the greatest contributions of the 2018 board is the change of this logo. It's an upbeat logo. It's a logo that says we are in the people business, because that's a human figure. But what is not discussed here is something I want to emphasize here, and probably the best way to describe the 2019 board. And I'd like you to pay particular attention to that figure of a 1 foot raised. 1 foot raised. Raised up. I think it's the best way to describe your 2019 board as we did our planning, because we are eager to take a giant leap in advancing HR during our term. So I'd like you to be inspired by the kind of leadership that your board for 2019 will bring. Because in the end, what we want to see happen is we want to be proud of our own profession, where we can say, I matter, we matter collectively, because the kind of work we do truly matters. Thank you very much.